everything that we're exposed to contains, and I mean everything, I mean every medium, every I'm talking about nature, I'm talking about our own bodies, basically everything that we can experience inside this realm. I'm going to call it a simulation, because it's the best word to describe what this is. Yeah, it's a copycat of the real world. This is definitely not the real world, and you'll see that yourself.
Welcome back to Wealthy as Fuck, the podcast. I'm Kim Kent, your host, and I am with the one and only, I'm like girl fanning, Annette Calarco, who is known as the White Pill on Instagram, who I have spent probably too much time watching your stories, everything you said. But welcome to the podcast.
Thank you.
So, Annette, I know you'll be able to explain yourself better, but what I love about Annette, I actually had a friend who she would share your posts, and I was like, "Ooh, this is like down the rabbit hole." And it's all about sharing. I'll get you to say it so I don't butcher it, but I look at it as like you're sharing the symbolism in the world. Well, actually, I'm going to get you just to say it because I don't even think I can. But it's just like we're going down the rabbit hole. So let's disclaimer, we're going full down the rabbit hole. Maybe I should even say, like, if this stuff isn't over my head because I'm open to it. I'm open to this conversation and I don't take things personally. But that's where we're going. Like, who knows where this chat's going to go. But what I will say is, like, I feel like it's very aligned with Wealthy as Fuck because we're going to talk about consciousness and like our levels of consciousness. And to me, being a wealthy person, having a wealth consciousness means you are more open-minded. You can take in more information and interpret it without being in a victim ego. And oh my gosh, the conversation's going to get juicy. So tell us more about you, what it is you do, and a little bit, because I know we could spend the whole podcast you telling your life story getting to this point, but how it first got you into talking about symbolism, and explain to us what that is.
Okay, so firstly, I just want to touch on what you just said about the mindset. So I've been saying for a while that you need to have an entrepreneurial mindset to be able to follow along with this kind of thing, because it's really, you're really thinking outside the box and you're thinking ahead. You're really ahead of the curve. You're not, when people, they want to stick to what's familiar, you know? And this definitely what I'm doing is not familiar. It's something that really feels like something completely different. And that's because there is going to be a time in the future when this is mainstream, because the signs are telling us that over and over again, that this will be mainstream one day. But at the moment, it's so fringe. And so unless you can think like an entrepreneur, someone that can think ahead of time and not just jump on a bandwagon on, something that's already been done over and over again and no longer has the potential for, I don't know what the word is, but it's just so, yeah, I think you get what I'm saying. Like, and luckily, like my friend Doris, who Be Free with D, who I usually do podcasts with, she's got that mindset. She's very industrious. She's one of the most industrious people I've ever known. And she, like, basically, because this is so out there, in the early days, I struggled because I'm not someone that, I'm not a public speaker. I never used to go on camera. I spent my whole adult life being behind camera, literally. Like that was my profession. I was a camera operator. I worked in TV. I worked in film. I was an editor. I was an editor and assistant editor. So I assisted on films and television commercials and things like that. And then even when I did start social media, which I built, 300,000 followers, doing animal related content because I rescue animals and caretake animals. I have basically about 35 cats. I have ducks that I rescued from ponds, public ponds that were dumped. So even then I was still staying away from the camera, being in the, just mostly putting myself in wide shots, and you barely heard my voice. And so when I started doing this stuff, I needed to really build courage, to do this. And so that's that's why I really needed Doris. And yeah, because she's got that mindset as well. And she's just one of those people, everything she touches turns to gold, you know? She's just like a high achiever. She's just got that mindset. She used to play semi-professional soccer overseas, and she lived in Italy for a while, and everything that she's ever done, everything she's applied herself to, she's done really well at, you know? And then now she's applying herself to this, and I'm applying myself to this, and we work as a team. And because I've been with her for so long, and she sort of translates English to English, you know, because sometimes, and said, pull me up if I go too deep, because it's really easy, and pull me up and get me to talk more simply if you feel like your followers aren't following along. But yeah, what I'm doing here is it's really, really different. But basically, what we always say to each other is, it's interesting because people either really, really dislike us, or they're really, really passionate about what we're sharing. We definitely don't have people that are neutral about what we're doing. They're either really, really into it and follow along very closely. You know, I've had people write to me saying that they wait with bated breath every day for every post. But then we've also got the ones that think we're nutcases, because there's that saying, how does it go? None are so blind as those who will not see. So people refuse to see because it's so unfamiliar. It's just
not safe. It's not safe for them to see. Well, look, I want to say this. We're nutcases. If people are listening to this and they don't consider themselves a nutcase, I'm like, why are you listening to me? Why are you in Kim Ken's community? I'm a fucking nutcase. So I love this. You can only be one. We are all one-sided, because one-sided is the human experience. You experience it through the one side, but we choose to see, but there are sides to see. So yeah, no, I love that. And I do want to say, like, go as deep as you like. I feel like we don't want to, deeper is more simple. It just makes, I feel like what you share makes sense. So we'll just roll with it. And I don't even know. It's going to be fun.
Yeah, it's really exciting because it does make, if you give it a chance, if you actually just give it a chance, it will make more sense than possibly anything that you've ever been exposed to. This is what people say to me. It's the thing that makes the most sense, because what it's doing, I call it syncretism, because what you're doing is you're bringing, if something is true, it has to be true from many different angles. Otherwise, it's just an opinion, right? So if something is true, you need to be able to, like with peer review science, you need to be able to check from so many different vantage points and go, yep, this works, this works, this works, this works from this vantage point, this vantage point, this vantage point. And then otherwise, if you can't do that, then it's just an opinion. And I feel like we live in the world full of opinions. We've got social media, everyone's doing podcasts, everyone's talking, everyone's sharing what they think. And to be honest, I'm a little tired of opinions, and I don't even want to share my own opinions unless I can show how I reached that opinion. And that's why I, like, even in storytelling, in filmmaking, they say show, don't tell. Because when you're telling, you're not using the art form. You may as well just be a writer, you know, just write. And because by showing, it reaches you in a deeper place. Like it goes deeper, and people understand it better because they're being shown, not told. And that's the beauty of this. It's really showing. So everyone that, like, a lot of my followers say that they're having their own individual experience of this. It's not like a cult where everyone's just listening to one person speak or reading their books, or it's kind of like what I'm doing is like shining a laser beam so that people can then join the dots together for themselves, and they can go off and have their own individual experience. And this is what everyone is doing. In fact, most of the content that I share has been sent to me by my followers. And so because they're seeing it and they send it to me, and then I share it, and it's like this, it's really a community thing because it's like a loop. And so they send to me, I share, others learn from what I'm sharing, and then they see more and send to me, and then I share. And so basically what it is that for those of you who don't know who I am and listening for the first time, basically, how do you even, so basically everything that we're exposed to contains, and I mean everything, I mean every medium, every I'm talking about nature, I'm talking about our own bodies, basically everything that we can experience inside this realm. I'm going to call it a simulation because it's the best word to describe what this is.
100%.
Yeah, it's a copycat of the real world. This is definitely not the real world, and you'll see that yourself. You don't have to take my word for it. Everyone eventually just sees it for themselves. And basically everything provides clues and breadcrumbs, but nothing is fully true in this realm. So there's nothing in this realm in this simulation that is fully pure, and not even nature, like nothing is pure. Everything is tainted with something. Everything in this realm, it's a dualistic realm. So there is no one religion that is the one true religion. There is nothing that is truly fully correct. Everything is mixed. But everything brings clues that are unique. So it'll be, okay, for example, there's a film they made it about Bob Dylan with Kate Blanchett was in it. It was like 20 years ago or something, I can't remember. And it was called I'm Not There. And what they did was, instead of just making a film about Bob Dylan, they got all these different characters that represent different aspects of Bob Dylan, and you follow their stories. So that's a great film to watch if you want to understand how symbolism works. Because, for example, every country represents a different planet, you could say, okay? Or you could also say a different chakra in the body. But each one is going to be showing different aspects so that you can see it from many different angles. Same with celebrities, politicians, things like that. They're all subconsciously representing, because it's all subconscious. Because it's a simulation, everything is being operated from somewhere else. Like if you're playing a video game, you're holding the console and you're controlling the game, you're controlling your character in the game, but your character isn't controlling itself, you are. Now, our true selves are not these bodies that are immortal. The true self is actually immortal, but we are trying to, like, the goal is to reach immortality. But you would say, well, if we're trying to achieve immortality, but we're already immortal, that doesn't make sense. How does that work? It's because we had a split in consciousness. So there's a part of us that's immortal and there's a part of us that's not. And you could call that the masculine part of us and the feminine part of us. So Adam and Eve, that's what that's about. That's the split in consciousness. And so we're all actually operating as the feminine, because we're all spirit, and spirit is the feminine. And by the way, this is all stuff that, obviously I learn from symbolism. I don't learn from books. I don't regurgitate what anyone else has said. I learn from symbolism. So everything I'm saying is what we've gathered from the symbolism. So we're basically spirit, and there is another aspect of us that is the soul. But the soul is not immortal. Our souls are not, at this point, not immortal. Because what we've received is a little dose of a soul. We're not operating. The soul is kind of like, it's outside. So how do we bring these two parts of us back together and become whole? Well, I like to use the example of the sun and the moon. So they say that the sun is masculine and the moon is feminine. And it's right, but when I say masculine, I'm not talking about the masculine that we're aware of, that we're used to in this world. The masculine that we have in this world is a dose. It's a small dose of the divine masculine, of the masculine that is it's like a higher octave of the masculine. And the feminine, it's a blend of both, because a lot of us, our spirits are, well, everyone has a spirit that needs work. Okay, so our spirits are not perfect. So what we're trying, so think of the moon, the new moon as what we are. You can't see it, right? Because why? Because it's not reflecting the light of the sun. Now, the sun is the soul, the moon is the spirit. The sun is always the same. The moon is not always the same. The moon goes from new moon to full moon and has all the bits in between, the crescent moon, the half moon, and all that. And it's constantly changing. So we are the new moon, and what that means is that we're not reflecting the light of the sun. So we're not reflecting the attributes of the soul, which means that we're far away. That shows how disconnected we are from our soul. So the full moon represents the spirit that is fully reflecting the attributes. So it's like, think of the full moon as a prophet, as like the Buddha. Or, there's all these different sort of prophets that people look back at and go, oh, that was like the best, the most enlightened kind of human you could get without that person actually being God himself.
Can I ask? I'm going to I have all these questions, but I think I just need to interject. And is this how, we know on full moons, like there's the lunatic saying, and I feel like I'm very sensitive to the moon, or I'm just very aware or tuned in. And I notice when there's full moon energy, I think everyone has a different experience where we could feel like more of ourselves. It almost feels too much. Is that where there's like how we could experience that, is the light's shining on all of it? Does that make sense? Like we're in that full moon energy as our own human experience, and we can feel like we're going crazy, but all it actually is shining the light on more of our, what is it, soul?
Yeah, what you're saying is that it's amplifying your state. Look, my opinion on that is you're probably right, but I haven't verified that through the symbolism.
Yeah.
But I
So
think
I haven't proved that, right? It makes sense to me, but
yeah, but it's not something that I've been able to verify from different vantage points.
Well, now
So
we put it out there.
Yeah.
We'll attract symbolism.
The thing is that, like, I didn't know anything about the moon. Like, I don't come from a kind of a background that knows anything about the planets, the moons, the chakra system. Like, when I started doing this, it's funny because people try to pigeonhole me all the time. And I get all sorts of accusations. I get told I'm religious because it depends on the person, what day they came across my work.
We all believe in something. This is where, I want to talk about religion. We will. I know what you mean. People think you're religious as in the church and the Bible or whichever one that is. But to me, religion is you have faith, you believe in something.
Well, sometimes I get accused of being Muslim. Like sometimes I get accused of being Christian. Sometimes I get accused of being also. It just depends on whatever the day is at whatever. But at the end of the day, when you are in a belief, you choose a paradigm and you go, okay, this is the truth, and everything else is not. Now you've trapped yourself into a belief prison. You've actually imprisoned yourself because the truth is that there is, like I said earlier, there is no one philosophy or religion or anything that is more true than any other. All religions, all belief systems are equally false and equally true. Now, what's interesting about that is, right now, it's obvious that having different belief systems it creates conflict in the world. And so we're separated from each other because we all have different viewpoints, different beliefs, and we see things very differently. So we're separated. But the beauty is that in the golden age, what actually happens is that the very things that are keeping us separated now are going to bring us together, because it's all about interpretation. So once everything is correctly interpreted, everyone will see, and everyone's getting a taste of that right now, just a taste, that everyone's background, everyone's religion, everyone's belief system actually is full of clues and breadcrumbs that they can bring to the table, like a piece of the puzzle to contribute to the larger picture. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I'll share this because I know this will really resonate with people. For me, who hasn't gone as deep as yourself, and everything you're saying makes sense to me. we're in the age of Aquarius, right? We've entered the age of Aquarius, the age of, is it, or is it coming? We're close. Or
I'm
we're
not
in
even
it.
sure. I'm not even sure. I haven't gone down that rabbit hole yet.
Well, look, there's the song, The Dawning of the Age of Aquarius back in the 80s, but we're in this space of awakening. And you know how there was this whole, it was probably in the 2010s. It was just before 2020 COVID times. I feel like everyone went through the woke phase, right? The waking up. And now it's just, there's just jokes around it, and there's different phases and types of if you're awake or woke or whatever the fucking label is. But we're in it. I guess people who haven't really noticed or understands what symbolism is, we know that we're in a phase of our life right now, or a time where like we're waking up, or people are starting to think more for themselves, or it's going to feel different to each individual. But we are in that, I guess, for people listening, you can see that we're in a time where we're waking up, or there's so much more information, and we're starting to think for ourselves, or we're having more freedom to think for ourselves, or we're challenging that. Well, that's definitely, I guess maybe I'm speaking for myself. I've always questioned, we're just questioning more. So, and I know that's just like, does that make sense? It's like a layman's way of explaining how we could, like you listening right now is like, I've never understood symbolism, but what Annette's saying, it is making sense. And I can see now we have been in the last decade or so, like there's bigger conversations. There's more wild conversation, wild because it's like not familiar, but we're getting familiar with the unfamiliar because we've talked about like waking up.
Hmm.
That makes
Yeah.
sense.
Yes. Yeah. Well, we're definitely, one thing's for sure, whatever's going on, one thing the symbolism is so clear about is that we are very, very close to the golden age. Like the golden age is actually, in a way, it's kind of started already, but not quite. We're definitely on the line of it beginning. I don't know when, but it does seem like next year
Oh, I
sometime.
like this. What's
But
that? Next year equals 8,
well,
2026?
actually, it is an 8-11 year because it's two heights, 1-1. So it's 11, and then you got 26, which is 8. So you can see it as an 8-11 year.
Yeah.
The following year is a 9-11 year because it's 27. 7 plus 2 is 9. That's a 9-11 year. But here's the thing, and in fact, I should. This is a good place to start talking about it because we all know, we're all familiar with 9/11, right? So everyone kind of knows like 9/11 is, whether you just believe it's a phone number and a date, like September 11, or you believe that there's more to it, there's more behind it, there's something like, that it does symbolize something.
I'm going to say this. I also want to say, and that's you're doing a really good job of being very neutral, which I love. And I'll be the one to say the triggering shit. I don't care. If you're listening to this and you're listening to my podcast in this community and you still believe 9/11 was like a terrorist attack where, all the things, the Twin Towers and all that, if you still believe that that was like freak accident terrorism in like the stereotypical terrorism, I would question why you're still listening to the shit that I share. So there's so much symbolism. There's so much like shit going on in the world around the 9/11 stuff where like it's planned things that are crazy, but we just accept it because what else are we going to do?
Well,
Anyway,
here's
I
the,
just wanted to say that, like, feel free. I know you're being very mindful of staying in the neutral language with this, which I love because you have a big following and you've got to do that, and that's your brand, right? I'm here to say maybe things that are unspoken or maybe things that are a bit.
well, the thing is that in the golden age, all things will come to light anyway. So, everything that, I mean, everyone's going to know what's going on in the golden age. Everything will come to light. So it's so close. So
I have a theory with this. I'm going to say it. I'm going to say it. It's because if we think about the generations, right? And the baby boomers, if you're a baby boomer listening, love you. If you're a baby boomer listening, you probably don't even fit into this stereotype. But there is that generation that is still fully, this is what I grew up believing. This is the world. This is I see with my lenses on and my tunnel vision on what I've been taught is right and wrong. And I believe like when that time's going to pass and that generation will all die, just like when time passes and our generation dies and so on and so forth. I think there's that at play. But look, I will be completely wrong. I'm not trying to throw anyone under the bus, but there's an age thing because of the beliefs of the different generations coming through and the level of consciousness. Can I ask your opinion on that, or are you going to keep?
Are you
Like,
talking about the difference in like the receptivity?
maybe, yeah. Well, yeah, 100%. That's a great way to put it. I don't know how to put it. And when that generation kind of dies off, so I'm like, lack of a better way of saying it, guys. Like, how else do I say it? Because there's less receptivity in that generation. I don't think there's anyone older than baby boomers still alive.
Well, the thing is that, like, I think that that's why, honestly, this is my opinion. I'm not saying I learned this from symbolism, but I think that that's why death, like, that's why we need, until, like, we need
We
to,
need to die. I feel like you're trying
death
to
is
say
kind of like a
survival.
reset. Death is a reset,
Yeah,
right? So death
100%.
is not death. So when an older generation disappears, they don't disappear. It's just that they experience a reset.
Yeah.
Just like birthdays are not really birthdays, either. And then we can maybe talk about birthdays later because they're really exciting to talk about. But yeah, it's just nothing is actually really real here. Like it's just so. Look, when it comes, people ask me about reincarnation. I don't know. I haven't. It's not something I've confirmed, but it does seem to make sense to me
Mm-hmm.
that we do reincarnate until a certain point, whenever that is. And so, but how long the cycle is, I don't know. How many generations? It's just, there's some things I just don't know, and we won't know till the golden age. And that's the other thing about this journey, is that people sometimes think that I know everything because of what I share. But the truth is that this rabbit hole will make you realize how little you actually know. This rabbit hole is the most humbling experience I've ever, like, it's so humbling because it's made me realize I know nothing. It's like I've just cracked the door open a little bit into the real, like, into a whole world, and I'm just giving little snippets of what I know, and it's nothing compared to what there is to know. It's just ridiculous, and it makes me think no one should be walking around with a chip on their shoulder on this earth. No one should have an inflated ego, because no one has a clue what is actually going on. Honestly, it's like an ego death experience when you, like, I've had people around me who are on this journey along with me, and they've had ego deaths because of it. Because, and by the way, the ego death is like, there's an ultimate ego death that happens at one point but what we go through in life is small little ego deaths. Like every time we realize we're wrong about something, or we feel shame about something, or we're experiencing little ego deaths all the time. So this has been one of those ego deaths, getting on this journey and going, oh my God, like I know nothing. Like
What I
this
have
is,
been saying is the moment you think you know everything, you know nothing.
yeah.
It's
Well,
okay.
Joseph Campbell,
Is that where it was from? I
no,
don't
but
know
he
where.
said it. I like the way he said it. He who thinks he knows doesn't know, but he who knows he doesn't know knows.
Yeah, exactly. And this is like, bring it back to like the work I do is I actually love this term. I might like adopt this a bit, the ego death, because every time I help people, or I say heal, I don't even like the word heal, but it makes sense, or like rewire the neural pathways in their brain of certain beliefs they had in regards to money and then growing up. It's little ego deaths because their ego is held on to something for so long. So I guess if you're listening in one, if you're my client or you've done my work, we can look at it that way of every time you are having ego deaths right now if you're on that journey of actually wanting to evolve and grow. The people who don't really, there are people, I think everyone has ego deaths, but the people who are so caught up in their ego, I call it ego victim, because it's the same thing, but one's like more self-righteous, one's more self-righteous. They're just not open to it, and then they just keep looping in their victim ego kind of thing.
That's
But
it.
yeah.
That's the right word. It's a loop. We're stuck in a loop, and it's our ego keeping us there. Honestly, the ego is our worst enemy, because it's not that the ego is bad. It's the false ego. It's a false identity that we're holding on to. There's an ego that is knowing who you are, but we don't know. We've all got the false identity. So that needs to go in order for the real one to rise. That's a hard one. It's just it's very hard for people to do. Like it's it takes suffering. Like it won't happen without suffering. And so the suffering is, anyway, there's so much to say about it. What was I saying before?
You can't have a gain without a loss. You can't have a
Yeah.
loss without a gain. So if we want to gain awakening or growth or evolution, whatever we want to call it, there's the level of suffering, there's grief, because there's a death. There's an identity death, and like people have to be prepared to go through it. And if you're too stuck in your victim ego, you're not prepared because it doesn't feel safe to go to that next level. So you keep yourself small, but then you keep yourself suffering, looping. But we were talking about 9/11 and we fully tangented. And I
Sorry,
think what I
that was
would
it.
really love for us to talk about is, because what you share a lot about is where the chakras line and the 8 and the 9. Like, this shit all makes sense to me, but I'm gonna get you to explain it, because when people can understand this, and this is just where it really aligns in with wealthy as fuck, or like what I teach around you becoming your most wealthy self or enlightened, whatever the word is. It's that journey from the 8 to the 9, but then how that shows up in the world through symbols. So yeah.
So firstly, again, like, it's pattern recognition that I'm not just regurgitating something I read somewhere, or it's just pattern recognition, and I'm tracking. We're all just tracking. We're all, so this is a conversation. It's not me going, this is how it is. It's I'm just explaining what we're tracking, what we're seeing in the symbolism. So what we're seeing is that 9/11, it really represents something very positive. And the reason why it's associated with something negative, like, for example,
let's just clarify, we're talking about just the numbers 9/11, guys. We're not actually talking about Twin Tower thing. Like, because a lot of people will think you say 9/11, we think Twin Tower straight away.
So
So we're
I'm
just
talking about
the number.
The number. So we associate it with negative, firstly, because it's an emergency phone number in the US, which is interesting because when you think about it, there's a positive and a negative there, because the negative is the emergency. So that's a negative. But the positive is that there's someone to call that you can call to come and rescue you and be your rescuer. And so it's sort of both when you think about it. Now, with September 11, which when people say 9/11, people's minds go there these days. That was a traumatic event, right? And so there's a reason why 9/11, that number was used to be associated with that event, and I'll get to it in a minute. And so basically, the reason why 9/11, like what 9/11 really is, and I really think that The Wizard of Oz, it's the third most watched movie ever made, and it's so good because it so simply like shows you what 9/11 is, and that is when Dorothy reaches Emerald City and she's with the wizard. So she's the 11, the wizard is the 9. So she gets all the way to the Emerald City. Now now you're looking, when you look at it, a screenshot of a freeze frame of her and the wizard, you're looking at 9/11. That's what 9/11 actually is. Well, that's what they're representing. And so what it is 9 is really the highest octave of God, if you want to call it God or creator. Think of it like a babushka doll. You know the babushka dolls?
Yeah.
The big one like on the outside, the largest one, that's the 9. You open it up. The next one is the 8. Open that up, the one inside is the 7. So it just keeps going, and you could say the babushka doll is like God, and then there's all these different energies that have been separated, because we're living in separation, right? So we've got masculine, feminine, we've got different energies that, like, yeah, so they're all separated, but the big one is like the complete everything all together, like trying to
it's like encompasses the whole. It makes absolute sense. Yeah.
So basically the green witch that sort of stalks her on the way to Emerald City, that's the 8. And then the witch that she landed on is the 7, and the Wicked Witch of the East that she lands on, and she gets her ruby slippers. By the way, the ruby slippers are the most valuable prop from any film ever made as well. Yeah, they're worth the most of any prop, and that's because it represents something extraordinarily important.
The 7 squashed. Well, and so talk about what's the 11. So she's the 11 going through. She's like squashed the 7, meaning like that. And I've evolved. I say the word evolve. So evolve from that wavelength, that energetic wavelength. The 8 wants them because, that's what we see. They're my sister's slippers. I want them. And then Dorothy's, wizard is a 9. What's the 11 part? So it feels like it's like the
It's like the 11 is showing, it's like it's you moving through the stages. So, for
Yeah.
example, we are all 7-11 right now because Saturn is 7. Saturn wears the rings. We are under the reign of Saturn, which is an energy. It's a parental, it's the parental energy is part of that. It's like the headmaster of the school, etc. There's all different ways that it's described. There's all different ways. There's all different characters and things that show you different aspects so that you can understand what Saturn represents, right? But I like to use the parental energy. The 11 is like, think of it, the 11 is like, you could see it like, what I see is like the soul and spirit, you could say that they're 11-11.
Mhm.
So 11, that equals 22. The number 22 is often associated with the twins, the twin flame. So it kind of all fits. It makes sense.
Yeah.
So you've got 11, like, so she's moving up.
Yeah.
She's like, it's like, let's say like the chosen ones, like or the prophets, or the ones that are the closest to God in the ones that are reflecting God's attributes more than anyone. They're the you could say like the moon, like the crescent moons of the world, you know, like where they're reflecting God's attributes like kindness and compassion and understanding and all these things. They are like the you could say that they are moving beyond the rings of Saturn. They are moving above Saturn's rings, Saturn's rule. They're moving towards true. It's like they're earning their own free will and moving towards more of a sovereign state of being.
Yeah. See, I feel
So
like this makes, aren't we all chasing, we're all chasing it, a sense of freedom, right? We're all chasing a sense of freedom. It's just when we're not conscious of what that means. And it's like that people on that journey of like, I want that enlightenment, I want to learn more, I want to be free more, I want to peel back. I guess that's a way of like how we can all experience it without realizing that's what's kind of at play.
yeah. So basically the chosen ones, I call them chosen ones, but anyone can choose to be chosen, right? Like
I just
it's
think of
not
Harry Potter. He was the chosen one.
anyone can be a chosen one. Anyone can do that. But you choose to be chosen and then you're chosen. So it's like the chosen ones, or the ones that are, you know, reflecting God's qualities the most in the world. They are moving up, and then there comes a time, like a fixed time, which is just before the golden age, where they're allowed to go past the 8 and then into the 9. So they get, well, actually they're still, up until this point they are still 7-11. Like everyone is still 7-11. It will be very obvious when someone is not 7-11 anymore. You'll know, the whole world will know. In the Bible they say every eye shall see and every ear shall hear, like when Jesus returns, because that's the Christian concept of, or that's the Christian way of describing what's going to happen. They're waiting. All religions are waiting for someone. You know, everyone's waiting for either a prophet or a Messiah, a savior, someone to come at the end to rescue them and all that stuff. Like, so that's the Christian way. But that's how it's just described as every eye shall see and every ear shall hear, because what the chosen ones do is they bring the heaven energy, the 9 energy, back into the 7, where everyone is still 7-11. So all the doom and gloom end time stuff, I don't know if you're familiar with it, but like there's a lot of doom and gloom end time prophecies in different religions about what's going to happen at the end. And what I've realized is what that is, it's telling us what's supposed to happen, like what humanity is supposed to get from, because we're living in, Saturn is tied to karma. So the experience that we're experiencing is it's a collective karmic script playing out, so that we're all trapped in our karma, in our collective karma.
Actually makes so much sense, because we're here to learn lessons, right? And it's the people who don't learn the lesson, you keep learning it over, you keep attracting, that's why you feel like you're in cycles, because you're needing to learn this lesson, because it's this karmic. And then there's the whole tangent, we'll come back, but like the reincarnation or whatever you want to call it, like I totally believe that. I know my soul's been here before, but like, you know how souls come in, it's like if they didn't learn the lesson the first time, they come back into the human experience to learn it again. I just think this makes a lot of sense, because from all the stuff we're talking about, this specifically, it's talked about a lot. Well, in the realms that I am in and what I see. So I think the listeners can really like key in or anchor in with that. Like, oh yeah, I've heard that before. We're here for the karmic lesson, and I believe like when you learn the lesson, one, ego death, you evolve. You kind of like, it's like you progress to the next stage. It's like a video game. You come back to the video game. You get to go to the next level. But then, yeah, anyway, back to what you were saying.
Yeah, exactly. Except that the truth is that most people have dug themselves into a karmic situation that they can't crawl themselves out of. That's the truth. And that's why the chosen ones are so necessary, because what they do is they help everyone else out. So this vicarious salvation idea that comes from Christianity, I used to think it was nonsense. Like back in the day, like I went through a point where I was like, there is no vicarious salvation. But it's a half truth. Like I said before, everything is half true. So there is a half truth to this concept of vicarious salvation where someone actually does come to rescue you. But the thing is, it's not someone that comes in from the outside. It's someone that comes from the inside, gets taken to the outside, and then goes, and then is sent back to the inside. And this is where the whole this part that I'm now touching on, this exit, this departure of the chosen one, and then the re-entrance of the chosen one into the simulation. This is so fascinating because the symbolism that he's telling us about this is everywhere. And in the golden age, everyone is going to be like, whoa, it really was everywhere. It's in movies, it's in, festivities, and it's just everywhere. Like this idea, in fact, right now, you've got the Taylor Swift, this Taylor Swift world is like
She's like one of the biggest.
They're doing.
When you guys go follow the White Pill account, then this is where you start showing it. I think this is what's going to make all sense with what we're talking about, is then you show through visuals of what's out there. And obviously the media is a great way to share it with the world, where this 9/11 and this 8/11 comes through. So all this is now the dots are going to join now when people start following you and say, okay.
Yeah, so what I do in my stories is I'm usually showing and trying not to give, I try not to do too much, what's the word? Like, I try not to give too much of my opinion, but at the same time, too many people need it because they're not following. So I have to be like, can you see it? And then they go, oh, I can see it. Like they just needed a little bit of help. So, but I try to lean on just the showing. As much as I possibly can, so I don't look like someone that's just another person with an opinion, like. So basically, the Taylor Swift, what they're doing now in her sort of world is they've started this culture of decoding, and they call it Easter eggs. And you could say that the signs that I'm pulling out and showing people you can call them Easter eggs because they are hiding everywhere, just like Easter eggs. And it's really like, it's almost like it's prepping people for the golden age. It's so fascinating to watch. If you just go into TikTok and Instagram and put Taylor Swift Easter eggs, you'll fall into this algorithm that will just feed you people decoding Taylor Swift content. And it's so similar to what I'm doing, except in that case, most of it is actually consciously being done. Like she's got a team of people. But I mean, because the subconscious is really controlling everything, it doesn't really matter. It's all the same thing. But it's more of a conscious effort to create mystery around her music and her work and get people talking about her. So, but it gives you a taste of what I'm doing, and what I'm doing is just a little taste of what's going to be happening in this new age it's about to start. So, and there's a lot of people right now talking about that she's got these 2 exit signs. There's this theme of 2, not just 1, but 2 exit signs. And everyone's like, what does the 2 exit signs mean? And I'm sure that there's some conscious, decision to do that has a more superficial meaning.
Like a poetic, like, that makes sense why she's doing it with, yeah.
Yeah, it'll probably come out, but it doesn't matter because at the end of the day, double meanings exist and everything has double meanings because you've got the conscious, and then you've got the subconscious meaning. The subconscious reason for doing it. So the subconscious reason is because what she represents is she represents a chosen one. I was pointing this out, like I've shown so many from so many angles that she represents a chosen one, and you see the transition from chosen one to enlightened from chosen one to enlightened being. And you're seeing that transition happening symbolically with her shift from being like a tortured poet to a showgirl. And so you're seeing that. And so the two exit signs represent, and it's a really famous thing. Like, it's everywhere. It's even in the very, very start of Judaism, Islam, and Christianity, where you have the patriarch of the three different religions, Abraham, where he goes to the Jewish and Christian version of it is that he goes to murder, God tells him to murder his son, Isaac. But then as he's going, like just about to murder him, an angel sort of comes in the way and says, no, 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 sacrifice, instead of sacrificing your son, sacrifice the ram that's over there. The Islamic version is the same story, but it's using the other brother that's Ishmael. So Islam comes from Ishmael's line. Judaism, Christianity comes from Isaac's line. But at the end of the day, it's really the same story. It's just one is is going ahead in time and telling you what happens. The other one is showing you that there is a period of time where we're living in darkness and in ignorance and with amnesia, and then we remember who we are. So it's the same thing either way, whether it's Isaac or whether it's Ishmael, but it's the two departures, it's the two exits, or you could say it's the two sacrifices. So you got sacrifice one, sacrifice two. And what that is you have the sacrifice of the chosen one, or you can call it a sacrifice. I'd rather call it an exit or departure. So it's when the chosen one exits the simulation, because when you die, people think you go to heaven and whatever. No, not yet. So what happens is the chosen one is the only one that gets to go to heaven when they die, or the chosen ones, right? When they die, that's their birth. That's the true birthday. So the real birth, this is why Jehovah's Witnesses say that the death day is more important than the birthday. And this is why they don't celebrate birthdays, because it's true. It's the real birthday is the death date of the chosen ones. And of course the death date or the end of what happens at the end of the golden age when the chosen ones have helped everyone else out is there's a mass exodus. So you could say that's everyone's real birthday as well. So that's the mass, everyone's going to have the same birthday because they're all going to exit at the same time. And it's like, it's a birthday because this isn't the real world. This is a simulation. So when you enter the real world, that's your real birthday. That's the day you're birthed back into the real world. And so the chosen ones will be taken and then returned after a certain amount of days. And I know this sounds insane, but the symbolism is so strong on this. It's everywhere. Once you see it, you can't unsee it, and you'll see it in movies, you see it in religious stories over and over again. I'll give a couple of examples. Jesus in the tomb for 3 days. Prophet Muhammad hides in a cave for 3 days when he migrates from Mecca to Medina, which, by the way, is the beginning of the Islamic calendar. Like, that journey sets off the Islamic calendar, just like our calendar, the one we use.
Before Christ and AD, whatever AD is, I can't remember.
That's Anno Domino.
That's why I like it.
So that's Year of the Lord. Yeah, people think it's after death, but that makes no sense. It's actually called, it's the Year of the Lord. So, yeah, our that calendar starts with Jesus' birth, and then because that's the birthday. It's like, it's all the same thing. It's just shown different ways. Also, what's another one? When Prophet Muhammad does his night and ascension journey, that's like a massive deal in Islam. Like, they consider that journey to be, if you don't believe that journey is real, you're not a real Muslim kind of thing. That's how important that journey is to them. And there's so much to be said about that. I could do a whole podcast about that journey and how it relates to the Temple Mount. I mean, it's the most fought over piece of land in the whole world, the Temple Mount in Jerusalem. And there's so much that verifies the history of it, what's happening in the conflict over there, over the Temple Mount. Everything just verifies. The symbolism is just so strong. So you've got this constant, like Dorothy passing out in the poppy field, Snow White falling into an unconscious state and then being
Sleeping Beauty.
It's just like everywhere. And so basically it's two departures. The reason why we're only seeing one, we just see someone like pass out or hide and then come out or come back to life or be resurrected, whatever. Because what's happening in between the death and resurrection, or the entrance into the cave, or whatever it is, what happens between then and what happens between then and the return is everything. Like, what happens in that 3-day period is everything. And this is why when Charlie Kirk died, he was representing what I believe to be exit one. So that's why I died under a tent, because it's showing the tabernacle, the because you've got the sacrifice that happens in the tabernacle before the temple was built. So that the tabernacle's a tent, and so he's like represents the high priest. And so when he went, then everyone was like acting like, you know, the fireworks, the pyrotechnics, the widow that's not really grieving properly. You know, the memorial was like more like a celebration than a grieving. And everyone was saying that. And it's like, yes, that fits perfectly, because what he represents, not what he is, but what he represents, is a chosen one being taken out of the simulation. Now that is good
That was
news.
his birthday. That was his
That's
true
his real
birthday.
birthday. And like that event is not something to grieve. That is not an event to cry about. When the chosen ones die, no one should cry, because that is the best thing that could happen to the whole entire planet. Everyone that's in this simulation wants that, because that is going to be what happens in that 3-day period. Is that those chosen ones will leave and they will go and fight for the freedoms of everyone else. And this is what soldiers represent, right? And this is the real reason why poppies are attached to World War I soldiers, because they represent, you know, where else do you hear that, where someone suffers and dies for everyone else's freedoms? You hear that in Christianity, and they say that about Jesus, suffered and died to free everyone, you know? And so, like, that's what's happening. That's one way of describing what's happening. There's other ways of describing it, but essentially what it is that the chosen ones go and they basically intercede. Like, so they basically fight off the collective karma. They basically fight off the collective karma. But what happens is that they become transformed. So, like, for example, okay, I'll give you an example. Like, if you've got a Christian background and you're listening, you're probably like, this sounds a bit weird, because I come from a Christian background where I believe that the death of Jesus was the reason why that was the perfect sacrifice, is because he was the Son of God that died, like that lived the perfect human life that died, and that's why. But if you go back into the Old Testament, you had this thing called, they called it the shadow of Jesus, which was the tabernacle, which was, you had the high priest, and the high priest was doing that on behalf of the Israelites, right? So he was doing what Jesus did for the world, but he was doing it for the Israelites. Now, what made the priest holy enough to fight off the collective karma of the Israelites, to help them out spiritually, was his garments. Firstly, he had to come from a certain bloodline, which I won't get into, but he also had to wear certain garments. The priest himself wasn't holy. No one on this planet is holy. We are all tainted. But what it was that what it represents, because he went into this room called the Holy of Holies, which was a perfect cube. That's what it was in the temple when they built it. But in the tabernacle, it was an area of the tabernacle where, you know, no one could enter because they would die if they weren't the high priest himself. In fact, even the high priest himself, that, you know, would be worried that he could die, because God's presence in there was so strong that it could kill a person that wasn't pure enough to be in the room. And so that room represents the real world. That room represents being taken and then going into the real world. High priest only entered that room one day a year, and they call it Satan's day off. Like, it's so fascinating. It's so fascinating because, yeah, that's the day that Saturn, which people call Satan, and yes, it is, but people's understanding of Satan isn't quite accurate. So it's not, anyway.
I feel like that's another podcast.
Yeah,
I'm
that's
for
another.
that too.
But
Yeah.
it's the day where Saturn, it's like the graduation day. Think of it like, you could also look at it like that. It's the day that you get graduated to the real world. So you're no longer just doing assignments and essays and stuff like that, like in the simulation. You're going to the real world now. And so that's the day. And so this 2 exit thing, this is why the 2 exits is so important to understand, because exit 1 is the departure of the imperfect, you could call it the crescent moon. It's reflecting the light of God, or the attributes of the sun, or the light of the sun, or the attributes of God, to a degree, but enough to go and fight for the rest of humanity. And then when they return, they are the full moon and the sun. They are the
Yeah.
full moon and the sun. And that departure from, so when you got Abraham, and he goes to sacrifice Isaac or Ishmael, but then he's told, no, sacrifice the ram. Now in the Christian version and the Jewish version, the ram is stuck in the thicket. And in the Islamic version, there is a word which I don't remember it, but it's actually used to describe, like, basically it insinuates that, and not all scholars agree, but there are Islamic scholars that say that it insinuates that the ram is coming from heaven, and the thicket represents heaven. So, for example, when Donald Trump he was campaigning for presidency for his second run, what happened was that he had two assassination attempts on his life. The first one was the exit 1, and the second one was exit 2. So you could think of the first one as Ishmael or Isaac, and the second one as the ram. And that's why it happened in a golf course.
See, I only remember seeing the first one, but I don't really. I see more news when I watch your stories than I actually see the news.
Well, no,
I just
a lot of
remember them
people
getting
don't.
together. Yeah.
It wasn't, the first one was like on sort of live
that the
TV
big
or whatever
one?
it was. It was in front of everyone. He was on the
Yeah.
mic. That makes sense because he was in the simulation. So it was seen. It was noticed by
Yeah.
everyone. The second one was in the golf course, and all you see is like pictures that were taken afterwards of when the cops showed up, things like that. But there is no images of, there's no
Yeah.
photos, there's no videos like the first one. Yes, because that's showing you it's happening in another place.
Yeah.
And the golf course represents the 9.
That's right. And I remember seeing your story around the golf course popped up around
Which
the
is
golf.
why the debris from the east wing went to a golf course, just like the Wicked Witch of the East ruby slippers were needed for Dorothy to get into the Emerald City. The golf course and Emerald City are both green.
Yes.
And so there's just so much. I mean, you can sort of, all I'm doing is giving you guys a taste. But
Yeah.
it's so exciting to put it, for everything to finally make sense. But that ram in the thicket, or the ram that the angel says, sacrifice that ram represents the chosen one being transformed. The chosen one leaves as the 7. It transformed in that 3-day period, transforms into the 811, and then it becomes the 911. Now, what's 911? It's the emergency phone number that you call when you need help. So it's like the world needs help, and the 911 comes in as the rescuer, because they've dealt with everyone's, like, the collective karma of humanity in that 3-day period, and now they've returned with the authority and power, like the highest level of authority and power. They've overridden the power, the power that runs the simulation. They are now, this is why the Christians say Jesus has to come in the lineage of King David, and this is why they say the Jews didn't accept Jesus, because they were expecting a king. They were expecting like a King David king, like someone that comes in and like actually holds the position of a king. And so that's what's going to happen. The chosen ones will come back. They'll return, and they are going to be running the show here. Like, forget about.
So guys, aliens are real. Aliens are coming. Like I say this all the time.
They're the aliens.
I think there's so many alien movies, but that, again, I feel like another conversation. I feel like if you don't believe aliens are real, you're delusional, because look, I'm a diehard Marvel fan now. I'm like, there are multiverses out there, and there's just, aliens are real. But then alien just means foreign.
That's right.
Right. It actually isn't green, goggly eyes. Green. Well, who knows? I don't know. But it's just foreign to the simulation. That makes sense. Like, we're on Earth, we're in this simulation, but coming back in, it would be an alien, because it'd be foreign to this simulation, right? Because the 9, they evolved. They beat the karma or whatever you want to say. They went through Saturn. They're on the other side. But if they come back in to like pull us through, they are alien.
Just like, yeah, there's
Like,
actually a good
simulation anymore.
scene. There's a good scene. I just thought of it now in Sonic the Hedgehog. I think it's part 2. Can't remember, but
I haven't watched it. I'm not a Sonic fan.
he has
That's too boy for me.
the 7 emeralds, which are the 7 chakras. They all gather at his heart, and then he becomes supersonic. You know how Sonic the Hedgehog is blue, but then he can transform into supersonic, which is gold.
Sure. I never watched it. I was like, I love the girly shit.
Yeah. Well, anyway, so Sonic is, like, you could say, he's a chosen one. And then
Yeah.
when he becomes supersonic, he becomes the enlightened one.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, and then he's just fought off like easily fought off the enemy. And then his adoptive parents come running up to him and they're like, Sonic! And then this little character comes out and he stops him and he says, he's not the Sonic you once knew, you know, like he's basically sort of painting him as like this, he's someone else now. He's an enlightened being now, you know. Then he takes a bite out of a hot dog and then goes back to being blue, which I can explain that another time. But
yeah, he's eating back into he's taking a bite of it. Do you know what you just made me think of? And I'm like, maybe I've been on this journey since childhood. Like I've always known I've been into this stuff. Die hard Sailor Moon fan here. Like hardcore. I used to wish, I remember writing a list to Santa saying, I want Sailor Moon bedspread, curtains, I want her costume. I used to be in the pool and do her little like transformation like under the water pretending I was Sailor Moon, and I'm like, this is all making sense of like who she represents definitely as the 7 Serena, like in real or whatever her. I may have watched an episode recently on Netflix. I'm like she definitely the 7-Eleven. Tell me if I'm wrong with the right, but then who she transforms into and what the moon represents. I don't know. Did you ever watch much of Sailor Moon?
I'd have to revisit Sailor Moon. My little sister used to watch it when I was a kid.
It makes sense of the just stuff you're saying. Like I'm sure we'd have to.
Oh, it would. Yeah. This is what I mean by everyone having their own individual experience, because everyone's like got their own interests and the things that they like and the things they do and they specialize in different things. And so, because it's everywhere, everyone's like, oh, I can see it in this, I can see it in that. I can see it in this film. I get told all the time, watch this, look at this, read this.
I'll see it more.
Sorry,
I can't not think about Sailor Moon now because, like, when she's in a normal, when she's Serena, she's literally full ego tantrum, typical teenager, hormonal teenager. And then when she gets, from my memory of watching it all, when she gets to her most enlightened state as the Moon Princess or whatever she is, she's like fully compassionate, fully love. And there's all through the series, they like come back and forth. It's like they go back to the simulation. And anyway, Sailor Moon listeners, we just like blown our minds here.
Yeah, for sure.
This is in the 90s, like the 90s. This is 30 years ago.
Yeah, I'm sure if I was to take a look at it, I would, I'd have fun.
Add that to your list of things to watch.
It's just at this point, you know, like I've collected so many books from book fairs, and I've realized I've gotten to the point where I've realized like what's going to happen with the enlightened beings, whoever they are, like the chosen ones. They're going to have all the information downloaded. Like they're going to be all knowing. Like they're going to have access to all. Like this is going to be something else, and they're going to be able to explain everything because they're not going to. Someone could walk up to them and say, can you explain this? They'd never needed to even watch it because they have all the information stored in them. They're all knowing, so they'll be able to sit there. Like, can you imagine how fun that's going to be? Like, it's like Scarlett Johansson in that film Lucy, where and then by the end, you know, she can just walk up to someone and say, and she knows it. She knows their whole history, their whole like.
And at the end, literally just becomes that's entering the 9, right? She just becomes. Like she's can't be a human physical body anymore.
Yeah.
She just becomes.
And he says, where are you? And she says, I'm everywhere. That's probably, you know, that could represent what happens at the end of the golden age.
Yeah.
But
we don't know, right? And I guess I do want to pre-frame this because my ego definitely, the anxiety can come in. Like us hearing this now, it's easy to get caught up into like, because it's something out of our control, right? Something in the future. So anxiety can come, I guess. It's like, we're not here to like fearmonger at all. It's just about just becoming conscious of how the unconscious is at play, even though could we ever become conscious of the unconscious? Do you know what I mean? Like, I do even have to remind myself, like, Kim, if I get too wound up in it, we can get, it's like those people who become the Armageddon, you know, they're like the world, doomsday preppers, which I don't want anyone to
Well, like
become
I said,
doomsday preppers.
like what I realize is that the doomsday stuff is necessary because we need to understand at a certain point that bad stuff was supposed to happen. But you know, you've got that story of, and I know I referred to the Bible a lot, but that's because it's my background. Like every religion is going to have their, you know, and the enlightened beings are going to be referring to all religions equally. Like there will be no, you know, but that I because it's everywhere. So the story of Noah's Ark is that, you know, there was only like a small amount of people that were, I guess, righteous enough to be spared from the doomsday scenario, right? Which was a mass, like at the flood that drowned everyone, all the wicked. And so I believe that story is telling us what is meant to happen, but won't happen. Like even in that story, it says that God promises that he won't do it again. And I don't think it ever happened. I think that it's just what's supposed to happen, right? And so basically it's a promise that it won't happen because of divine intervention. Because there will be divine intervention, that God will allow like a way out for the people who can't crawl themselves out of their own karmic situations. And so and then the rainbow, which is the 811, which is, you know, the rainbow bridge that gets you from the 7 to the 9, from the simulation to heaven. That's the 811, and like that is the sign. So Christians will say, like when they see a rainbow, like growing up, I would hear them say that's God's promise that, you know, he won't flood the earth, or like he won't flood the earth.
Well, it makes sense because it's been raining and the sun's coming out. So the sun's coming out now. The
Yeah,
rains are going to stop.
exactly. Yeah. So the doom and gloom stuff, I realized, is necessary because we're supposed to understand in hindsight, in the golden age, we're supposed to look back in hindsight and go, yeah, this is what we were supposed to, this is what was meant to happen, but it wasn't going to be allowed to happen. And the flood is a metaphor, by the way. It's not like, I don't believe it was meant to be literal water. I think it was meant to be, you know, nuclear war, World War III, famine. You know, we were supposed to destroy ourselves because
Well,
that was,
2020 was a bit of a, in my opinion,
sorry.
you know, 2020, what happened in 2020 was definitely not an accident in a Chinese lab or whatever the story was. That went out and there was mass decrease in population. I'm trying to use my words carefully, but like shit like that happened. Like I'm creating an opinion right now. I know that, but big things have happened in the, what they say that was World War III. Like this virus was a war because it killed a shitload of people.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's for just a theory.
Yeah, yeah. No, I've had people say that, you could say that it was the beginning, you know.
Yeah.
You could say it was the start because it was supposed to get a lot worse than that. But yeah, there's so much symbolism around, you know, the COVID. I wish I knew what I know. I knew then what I know now, because, you know, we really need to sit down and do advanced searches because we'd find so much stuff because, yeah, the whole lockdown, there were so many components, the masks, the vaccine. I won't get into all the details, but that whole situation was just full of symbolism about
Yeah.
who we are, why we're here, how we help ourselves. It was all there. It was all there. Like the masks was essentially our higher self being muzzled.
With Australia, like, and
Sorry?
how Australia was handled through the whole, you know, there's a talk around Australia as the petri dish, you know, where like the test, because we're the baby new country. So there's lots of symbolism around that, I feel, with how our country handled it, with higher influence from, so I don't know, are we, is Australia the seven? Although I
Australia
don't know.
is Oz, the land of Oz.
Well, that's interesting then.
So it's
Because, yeah.
because remember the land of Oz, like when Dorothy she leaves Kansas,
Yeah.
she finds herself sitting on top of the dead Wicked Witch of the East. So that's Saturn. So now she's made it to the next. Now she's in the 8, right? Now she's 811 because she's in the world of Oz. So that's the subconscious, because subconscious is the spirit realm, which is the portal to the real world. So that's it. You think of like Land of Oz as a portal to Emerald City.
So then, like, in Australia, So being so new, like we're a new country in comparison. Like, well, not
Yeah, but
country, but like,
not every aspect is going to be like you've got to find the aspects. So for example, it's down under,
yeah.
right? So it's down under, so it's like, that's the just like in Stranger Things, it's the upside down. The upside down is the same thing as the Land of Oz. It's just like 8811 is the phone number for dial before you dig, because it's down, it's under. So
Okay.
anything under the earth, so tunnels, wells, wells, tunnels, pits, things like that. These all represent the rabbit hole, going down the rabbit hole. All these things, yeah, all represent. Same with the ocean. The ocean represents the subconscious realm. So it's the spirit realm. It's the subconscious realm. I wouldn't call it the real world, because it's the portal to the real world, because it still has that consciousness split.
But then I feel like we have a lot of heavy influence. So maybe the other, I'm just interpreting it how I see it. Tell me if like this makes sense or I'm like not interpreting it right. Then all the other countries that have been, and all in the north, in the northern hemisphere, all of them like influence Australia. They're all trying to like have their influence.
That's right, and
Of
that's why it's so multicultural.
yeah.
And we've got this whole thing about anti-immigration recently, because the immigration thing is about, because in the world of it's about because it's the portal, it's about us going there consciously, understanding where we are, and then going through it to Emerald City. So it's a migration. So Emerald City is also represented as Sydney, Australia. They even call it Emerald City. And we have the housing crisis, right? So that's showing you that that's another sort of symbol for Emerald, for the real world, having an influx of spirits and souls entering, because
Yeah.
coming out of the sim and going back to the real world.
Coming to want to come here. And then if you think in Wizard of Oz, like I've watched that movie. Like I even played it. I played the Tin Man in I used to do ballet as a kid, and we did the Wizard of Oz. I was the Tin Man. And like it's very hard to get in. There was a point like, Dorothy had to really prove herself to come in. And like we're in a day and age where like where there's immigration laws, there's a fight with like keep people out as such, or it's harder to get in. Like that'll make sense to me. Like how like what it's representing.
Yep. Yep. There's just so
I'm
much.
glad I'm in Australia.
Sorry?
Grateful for being Australian right now.
Well, actually, now that you've mentioned it, the what I was saying before about 9/11, why, so 9/11 hides under trauma. So this is why 9/11 was a traumatic event, because it hides under the trauma. So it's like you could say that our trauma is sort of is in the way, because the trauma exists in the subconscious.
Mm-hmm.
So when we're doing things, when we're making choices in the simulation, we don't realize, like, I don't know if it's 80 or 90% of our choices are motivated by our subconscious. And our subconscious is like, because that's where our traumas are stored, in the subconscious. So it's like saying, like, it's the karmas that are like, it's like, how to explain it? You have to have this is why the ego death is so important, because because when you have an ego death, it's like your soul descends down to where your spirit is. Like, so Orpheus going into the underworld to rescue Eurydice. Think of him as that small dose of the soul that we're operating with here in the simulation, descending down to rescue Eurydice in the underworld. So our spirits are trapped in the underworld. That's what the mask was about during lockdown, because our spirits are muzzled. Like, how we've got this thing called the voice. Okay, so the like, it's a political thing at the moment. It's sort of
Yeah.
a few years ago. Yeah. So that's about the voice of our true highest, our higher selves, our subconscious, our spirits. are muzzled because what's taking over is the program. So we're all, you know how they say the world is a stage and we are the actors? So that's actually what's going on. Like we're all playing scripts and it's all determined by the karmic situations. You know, we need to break out. Like free will is earned, not given. Like we think we have free will and we can accomplish free will, but it's earned, not just given over. So it's like in the spirit realm, in the subconscious realm, everyone's kind of rooting for the chosen ones in the simulation. Even though in the simulation the chosen ones are like belittled and made fun of and they're very unpopular and they're kind of, you know, they're just sort of, their names are dragged through the mud. They're seen as like very strange. They're not accepted into mainstream society. But in the subconscious realm, they're actually, the chosen ones are actually celebrities. They're actually really, like, everyone's rooting for them. So this is why, like, when you are communicating with people, you have to remember you're communicating, and when they're like very sort of low frequency, you know, then they're being very like, I don't know what the word is. They're not being very nice. You've got to remember that you're dealing with the part of them that is like held hostage. Like it's not their true self. Their true self understands what's going on. There's nothing your subconscious doesn't know that mine does. There's no separation consciousness on that level. It's like the key is really to forgive. Like forgiveness is like a superpower. The ability to forgive, the ability to understand, the ability to hold your ground and be you know, be the higher, like take the high ground in situations where someone's trying to drag you down or, you know, trying to get you to like be like them, you know, and you like by staying above that and by looking past their role playing and looking at who they really are, it helps you to keep that portal open. It helps your, like, think of it like it helps your moon to reflect the light of the sun, because that is what's necessary for, you know, for yourself and for the rest of the world. Like, because anyone who can help themselves will help everyone else.
Yeah.
It's like they say that.
This is tying up so well. I just want to share this in just to keep it like in alignment with wealthy as fuck. And when you say, just when you're saying like the whole higher ground and whatnot, like I grew up in a space where, you know, everyone's stuck with the demons at play kind of thing. And, you know, the people who were like, I'd always hear, oh, they're just high and mighty, or they think they're better than us. And then I've actually had it as I've done work on myself and like learned to forgive and have compassion where there was mass trauma, especially like with my parents, right? And my step parent, there's shit that they're holding on to. And I've become the child that's all, and I've been told this by a very close relative. Oh, now Kim, you're all high and mighty. But I'm like, I'm not trying to be high and mighty. I'm just like not fucking playing in this, like everyone's a human soul. Like, but that all makes sense. I'm sharing this so I know people can relate to that when we've grown up with the whole, what's the word? When you're a lower vibration or you're just in that victim. And so when other people are high, you know, oh, they're just high and mighty. But no, they're probably just actually fucking like not feeding into it and living into that, the story. And this is just a really good representation of how I know the other listeners can be like, I've experienced that, or that makes sense. That's how it's showing up in like people's behavior. So anyway, I could like really relate to that. And look, my ego loves it because I'm like, I know I'm not trying to be all high and mighty, but I'm like, in those moments, it's just good validation that where forgiveness has played out in a good way, and it's helped me have a better quality of life. Anyway.
Yeah, and I think it is the key to even empathy, because I've realized that you can't teach people to have empathy either. Like you can teach a child, you can do your best to teach a child to have empathy, but I feel like you can't, once people are adults, there's no way that you can try to help someone understand someone else's point of view. I feel like everyone's just stuck where they are. And I really feel like forgiveness, like if people can try to forgive, it's the key that unlocks everything else, like empathy, because there seems to be some like huge barrier that just stops people from, it's the most saddest thing. And I feel like my whole life, I really struggled with it. I've really struggled with understanding how people can lack empathy, how they can't put themselves into someone else's shoes. They just can't do it. And you can't make them do it. You can't even inspire them to do it. And I was
Well,
so
they have to want
disappointed.
to,
Sorry?
but yeah, you have to want to, like, you have to want to, you have to become conscious of this relationship with this person or my past self or whatever it is. I don't want it to be like this anymore. Like, you have to be willing. That's what I believe. You have, like, the only way that I can be, and I find myself very empathetic because I'm willing to see the other, I'm willing to see the other truth. I'm not just, it's where it comes back to people who aren't willing because they're like, no, their truth is the 100% truth, which we know is not the real truth, but it's their real truth. Anyway, yes, I
But when I
agree.
say key, I mean for the chosen ones, because at the end of the day, like, we can sit here and say, how can we make the world better? How can we help people to become better people and treat each other better and all that stuff? But really, when you look at the state of the world the way it is now, unless there's some miraculous, supernatural something like that, completely, like, no one has a chance in hell of being able to help the world. You can only do what's in your power and, like, help yourself and the small world around you and do your best. But really, no one person can really, or even a group of people, or even like a large group of people, can really help the world unless they have, like, some sort of divine assistance. Like, it needs to be something that comes from out of this world, that comes in to give them the tools and the power and the authority to really, because that's like I said, like, the world actually really does, and this is what the symbolism, it's not my opinion, is saying, the world deserves the flood. It deserves World War III. Like, that's how bad the world is. And I mean, collectively speaking, like, the collective karma is really wants to give the world starvation, famine, nuclear war. It wants to do that. That's what the karma
Otherwise, it
wants to
wouldn't be
do.
happening. It wouldn't be
Sorry?
happening. It wouldn't be happening otherwise. Like, that's, I feel like if it were, if the world, if it wasn't meant to happen, it wouldn't be happening, but it's happening and people are trying to fight it. And there's a saying, it's like, is it the Dalai Lama? The reason he stopped trying to go for world peace is because the more peace you try and chase, the more war you create.
That's amazing. Like, that's really amazing, because there is only one way to achieve world peace, and that is peacefully. But it absolutely needs divine intervention. Like, there's no other way. We cannot achieve world peace. Even if you do it the right way, you will not succeed without divine intervention. This 9/11 thing is everything. It is absolutely everything, because people are, like, for example, the reason why they call Islam the religion of, how they argue, like, people say it's the religion of peace, and then other people say, no, it's not the religion of peace. It's a terrorist sort of religion,
It's like
whatever.
very extreme. It's both sides. It's like so peace or so extra, like negative.
Yeah, that's like, people don't tend to be neutral about Islam. And that's because, so the reason why they call it the religion of peace, which I wish the Muslims talked more about openly with non-Muslims, because I wish I knew this earlier, is because Prophet Muhammad, what the story goes, that Prophet Muhammad, he left, like I said, he left Mecca, which was a polytheistic society where everyone has different opinions, different beliefs, they worship different gods, different religions. So he left, and like I said before, that's when the Islamic calendar begins. So this journey out of it means a lot. And like I said, on the way to Medina, he hid in a cave for 3 days. So this journey means so much more than what even the Muslims think. This is the journey out of the simulation to the real world and back. Then he returns. When he returns, he peacefully dismantled tribalism in Mecca. So you have all these people, everyone's worshipping different gods, different religions, different opinions, everything's different. Everyone's divided, conflict, everything. And without shedding any blood, everyone gets on the same page and sees the world the same way. And that's because it happens after he comes back from Medina, because what it's really saying is that he came back with a power and authority to be able to accomplish that. Because if he was just walking around saying, like, look at this, look at that, like, people are so stubborn. Like, look at what's happening now, like, showing people how all religions come together, like, being able to show through correct interpretation and syncretism And people just turn away from it because they don't want to believe that they are half right. Everyone wants to be fully right because the false ego is so involved. It's so involved because the identity is wrapped up in that. So people will lose their identity. If you go to someone and say, look at this, look at how, if you go to a Christian, for example, like the average Christian, and say, look how Islam and Christianity and Judaism and Hinduism and Buddhism, and look at how they all come together beautifully once interpreted correctly, and how they all bring their own unique perspective that contributes to the wider understanding. They'll reject what you say. You'll be accused of blasphemy, heresy, like every name. Like, even if you can show them clearly, as clear as day, the majority of the world will not listen. They will reject the message. They will reject it even if it's obvious as the sun is shining. And that's how you know, like, that's how you know that so basically when Prophet Muhammad came back, like recently we had this a Mecca store, which is a makeup store, I think it was in Sydney, just recently got, like, it got ram raided, and it was in, like, the headlines were like, Mecca store gets ram raided. That's because what Prophet Muhammad represents when he returns to Mecca is the ram.
Yeah.
Right? It's the second departure. So he departs, that's the first exit out of Mecca. The second exit, he's coming out of Medina back to Mecca. So he's coming back as the ram. So he raids Mecca as the ram. He ram raids Mecca. And that's how that is accomplished. And this is why, like, I know world peace will not happen until the golden age, until the chosen ones are taken and return as the enlightened beings, because everyone will be absolutely compelled, and I mean every single person on the planet will be absolutely compelled to listen to what they've got to say, because
Yeah.
they're going to come with, like, they call them signs and wonders or miracles or whatever. They're going to have a power that no one even knew was even possible. They're going to have a power that's going to command the attention of the world. No one is going, and this is another reason why the Jews didn't believe Jesus was a Messiah, because they say that there should be no doubt. It shouldn't be, oh, is this person the Messiah? Or some people believe yes, some people believe no. No, they believe that there should be not even an ounce of doubt. Everyone will just know, because that person is going to bring something and show something that no one has ever seen. Like, it's going to be out of this world. It really is. And
I want to say this because I know even my brain or my ego goes, like, it's a chosen one. It does. It just sounds like who's the chosen one? How are they going to come back? But if we take away our own personal stuff and emotions, if something came in, whether it's in human form, like, you're not saying it's going to be this human that comes back, like, in this human form. It's like, if something's going to change, we will know, because if something happens so like foreign to our normal senses that has this power, of course we're going to stop and listen.
Well, actually,
because
what
we're
it
gonna
is,
feel the power of
what
it.
it is they bring heaven to earth. That's what's going to happen. So the energy of heaven, of the real world, is going to be brought down here. So, for example, you won't have like, I don't care how crazy this sounds, because you'll see, everyone's going to see. You're not going to have carnivorous animals anymore. The Bible describes it as a lion lying with the lamb. Nature won't be cruel anymore. Even our architecture. So if you look at, like, all the Tartaria stuff, there's like a lot of content about this lost empire called Tartaria. If you look at that, that's giving you so many clues as well about how humans will be living, how the architecture will be. It talks about free energy. There's going to be all this stuff. There are so many, like, little clues about how the golden age is going to look. And if you're thinking, like, how the hell is, like, architecture just going to magically change? Yes, everything is going to magically change. That is right. And, like, I don't care how crazy that sounds, because when you realize this is a simulation and everything is coded, this higher power can just recode it like a programmer. Like, it's just,
You know what my question is? I'm only sorry to check, because I'm like, are we going to be conscious of the change?
100%.
We are going to be conscious, because that's why I guess people's brains. Is it going to happen in our lifetime?
Yes.
You say, yeah.
Well,
I'm here
that's what
for
the
it.
symbolism is saying. That's what it's saying. It's saying it's going to be very soon. Like, we're talking the next couple of years. I believe next year.
Dubai. Dubai is like the city that's painted as it's these big fuck off buildings that's like near water. It almost feels like unrealistic, and all the people are flocking there. The belief, I definitely align with a lot of values, like the government I'll be very careful when it comes to money. I do align with a lot of like how they, I'm just trying to get my words right without saying something that then someone like, you have no idea what you're talking about. You know what I mean? Like it's a very desirable place to live. It's like new age. It gives a lot of new age.
Pretty sure I haven't gone down the rabbit hole, but I'm pretty sure it represents either the real world or the golden age, just like Medina.
Yeah, right. It's just something that's like, it's almost like you can't believe it, but it's just enough to believe now that even when you see like so many people going there to see it, but it's, I look at Dubai and it's like, it's not too crazy. It doesn't feel like you're on another planet from what we see in movies, right? What's depicted to us in displayed in movies. So we create that picture. But yeah, Dubai feels like the new world. Don't they talk about that area as being like new world or some shit? I don't know, maybe.
I don't know, but it's so far it does seem to be that it represents, the either the real world like Emerald City, or which is really, or the new, the golden age on Earth, which is really the same thing because it's heaven coming to Earth. So it's really the same. So
everyone wants to live. It's everyone like this. It's tax free. It's got all these. And then the people who, I feel like we're opening up another wormhole here, but the people who, like, I talk to people and they're like, oh, but it's so expensive to live there. I'm like, but that's because you're still stuck in a different, like what your subconscious is doing. And you're like, kind of, oh, you're repelling the idea of it because it's not familiar. But then people who are, I guess, more open-minded or whatever you want to call it, the idea of Dubai, I love the idea of it. I love it. It's because it's breaking down all the ways. And this is where Trump comes in too. I'm a pro-Trump. I find to piss people off, whatever. I'm a pro-Trump of the symbolism of what he's come in to do to break down and break down the structures of how so many people live for so, like the beliefs and how the world's meant to be and the economy's meant to be and society's meant to be. Does that make sense?
yeah, yeah.
Like I'm not here for it's the symbolism of what it represents. So
Yeah,
that's why I feel like
there's so much. There's so much with Trump. In fact, yeah,
it's another
there's a
episode
lot.
because we'll probably need to wrap this up.
Yeah, but just quickly, like the QAnon stuff is coming up because last night Trump actually posted something that kind of almost completely confirms that he's saying that he's connected to QAnon. Like,
Yeah,
he reposted a meme where it says "Do it Q" on his shoulder,
yeah.
and no one's ever seen Trump be that in your face about QAnon. It's the first time, and this only happened last night. And you know, QAnon is like anything else, right? It's just like everything else. It's full of clues and breadcrumbs, but what it is not pure. It's not, you know, as true like everything else, but it's just full of clues and breadcrumbs. And it's just really exciting to see that because it's like you got the Epstein files are about to be released. It's like everything seems to be coming to a head. Like everything is kind of resolving. Like you can really see things are starting to resolve, and that's how you know we're close to the golden age, which is really exciting.
I love that. That is the best way to say it. And I think for all of us, no matter where we're at on this journey, it is blatantly obvious. And like, thank God for media in this sense. Otherwise, we wouldn't see all this stuff. The resolution, it resolving when there's been so much talk and so much XYZ, that just ties it all together. The resolution, is that the word for resolve? Resolution.
Yeah.
Is that the same word? Yeah, one's like the adjective and one's like anyway, failed English. I love that. It is. And it makes sense. Well, do you have, we could talk all day. I've just been conscious of time and everyone's brains are probably like, holy fuck. And I'm here for it. Do you have anything you'd want to share? Or it's not like you're here. I know you're like, I'm not here to give advice or share my opinion. I'm just here kind of just being the shower. Like you're just being like the messenger of what we're seeing. But is there anything you want to leave people with? Or
yeah, so something I was thinking about this morning was the whole trust the plan thing, because that's coming up now because now QAnon's like on everyone's tongues. And I've had people accuse me of doing something similar where I've got, it's like they called QAnon hope porn, you know, like it was just like trust the plan, the white hats are in control, blah 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 blah. And so and like even I fell into the sort of trap of being like no, like that's, you know, that's vicarious. So like if you look into like my my stuff from a year and a half ago, I was like, that's vicarious salvation. That's like waiting for a savior. And that's bullcrap. That's what I was saying at the time. But now the symbolism is just really shown me that it's everything's half true. So this vicarious salvation idea is half true, but the part that's not true about it is that people think that someone's just going to sweep in from the outside, and that's half true. But the truth is that that how this process of this vicarious salvation happens is that it's people that are in the inside that get to the level where then they can be taken out to be given the power and authority to come back in and be and rescue and be the white hat, or be the 911, like the police, ambulance, whatever. Like, so it starts with us. It starts with us. It's not just that we can all sit on our hands and go, oh, the Savior's going to come and save us, white hats, Jesus, whatever, the Messiah, whatever religion you are. No, it's not how it works. And this is the big secret. The big secret is that it's people that it's us. Like, we are the ones, but it doesn't have to be all of us. And that's the difference. It just needs to be a certain amount. So that saying, be the change you wish to see, that is a really important quote, because if you can be the change you wish to see, you could choose. That would be making a choice to be a chosen one, and then become like, have that authority and power to help the rest of humanity. Do you know what I'm saying? So the vicarious salvation thing, the trust the plan thing, is half true, but the part of it that's not true is that it's going to be someone that just sweeps in from a high level to come and rescue us. It's actually, you start, the chosen ones start at the low level, rise up. So really, like, we should all be trying our best to be the change we want to see, so that we can become chosen ones.
Yeah. Well, this is, and I'm a coach, and I've done a lot of the personal development, and there's a lot of those people in my world, and what I see, this is where your symbolism is, what you're saying is proving the whole, like, I always say, no one's coming to save you. You need to save yourself. And this is, you need to initiate, you need to lead. It's the people who want to stay in victim ego. It's like, someone else is going to come save me. I'll just wait and wait and wait, but still struggle while they're waiting. It needs to lead to us. And something, I've always said this, something that I've learned is, the reason it starts with us, like, we are God. God only exists because we think it. The universe only exists because we think it. Because if we can't think about this, how can we prove that it exists if we can't think about it right now? So if you look at it that way, to me, it helps. Like, there's proof that it's there, but we're seeing it in our own, like, for me to see it and understand it and believe it, I have to think it, right? So I'm sharing this with you guys listening, because it comes back down to, like, take the responsibility. If you want to change, if you want to evolve, if you want to, become enlightened, or that's why people are your wealthiest self. To me, it's not just money, right? Your wealthiest self is you becoming the best version and having that ripple effect into the world. It starts with you, and you have to decide. And this is where I believe in faith. I used to struggle with it, and this is why my world was so upside down crazy. I didn't have faith, and I still have to. It's like faith that I trust myself. I trust what I'm doing. I'm trusting that it's going to trust the plan, but I'm in the driver's seat, and that's going to be my experience. And that's what it comes down to this. But I just love, and guys, you need to go follow Annette on the White Pill. We'll have it all tagged in the show notes, because you're showing the proof in the representation of the world. It just mirrors back what it is. Do you know what I mean? Like, we might have these thoughts and like, oh, I'm going to make these decisions. There's proof everywhere. That's the symbolism. It's like, it's almost like that's the God you need to feel. Oh my God, I'm like, where are my words going here? The symbolism is the proof in the pudding.
Yeah, that's right.
To back your thought, if that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, it seems to be it's like a voice crying out, and we're constantly being exposed to it, but it's like a language we don't understand, so we're ignoring it. But it's constantly there screaming out at us, like, every day, through everything that we are exposed to, nature, movies, the news, even each other, because it's us. It's essentially, every single influencer, every single person on social media that is talking, they are all conduits of this symbolism. Like, the symbolism is, when you look in the mirror, you're looking at another conduit. You're trapped in a symbol. Your body, if you're a woman, you're trapped in the symbol of the spirit, and if you're a man, you're trapped in a symbol of the soul.
Mm.
And it's like we're in, I don't know, it's just insane. It's so insane. But this is why in the golden age, everyone will have a voice and everyone will feel heard and everyone will feel important because everyone is actually a conduit. So like there is no beyond the my false identity and your false identity. There's no difference between us. Like there's no separation consciousness on that level. There's no difference between us.
We're all one consciousness. We're all one. Well, I read the book Reality Unveiled or Unveiling Reality. They're two different books, apparently. I read the one and he talks about how aliens are real and like the quantum physics and all of that stuff. And it's like, we're all one consciousness, which I've learned. We're all one consciousness. And the reason we feel the divide is because we think we're all separate, but we're actually all together, which is what, when it comes back to religion, I am not a religious person in that sense. Like I grew up, Christianity was like the biggest one around, but I just believe God is grand organizational design. Like there's a bigger thing at play, but we are all one. And the closer we are to the one, the more we attract the many is a really powerful thing too. And then if we struggle, if we want to struggle, no one wants to struggle, but really we're choosing it, is because you think you're indifferent. Is that the right way? You think you're different? Like you think you're separate, but that's only going to fuck you over really and make this not enjoyable. Anyway, I feel like we need to wrap this up. I don't want to. I actually like need to go say good morning to my daughter. That's why I'm like, I need to wrap this up. But I love everything we've talked about. I am so grateful for you sharing this and giving your time. Obviously, everyone go follow Annette. It's the white dot pill.
The dot white pill.
The dot white pill. But it's in the show notes. Go follow. This reel will be going up anyway, and I'll tag you and all the things. Is there anything else you want to give people, lead them to, or anything? That's it. So grateful for you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks for giving me a platform. Not many people want to actually interview me.
I'm like, can we talk all day? Like you need
I'm
the
a bit hard to pigeonhole.
No. Anyone want to pigeonhole in it? I'm coming for you. Can I say that? Anyway. All right. Thank you so much. I'll talk to you soon.
All right. Have a good day. Bye.